fighting soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die, men who do just what they say, the brave men of the Green Beret, silver wings.
Welcome to the United Constitutional Patriots radio show with your host Johnny and Chuck. I will now turn the mic over to Johnny. So here's Johnny.
Yes.
Go ahead.
How are you doing tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the United Constitutional Patriots radio show. America's number one news right now, because we tell the truth and we tell exactly what's going on. We don't sugarcoat it. Tonight we have a special guest, Billy Powers. Billy has been our guest before, and we're going to be giving you some updates. We were supposed to have one gentleman on that we were going to bring on tonight. He's down in Texas. He was one of the ranchers that was involved in the land grab by BLM, and the federal courts ruled in the ranchers' favors and kicked BLM out. He will be our Monday guest for sure. But in the meantime, I want to welcome everybody. I want to welcome Billy, Billy Renee Powers. I want to welcome Chuck. I want to welcome Pete, Gregory, Greg Clark especially. Greg's been there so good with us. And I want to welcome Tom, who is one of our not only speakers when necessary, but contributes a whole lot to what we do. I want everybody to know that there's a lot going on in this country right now, and it needs to be watched. In the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to Billy Powers. So go ahead.
Well, good evening, gentlemen. I'm looking forward to that special guest possibly popping in. I've been very involved over the years covering the stories of the ranchers out in Nevada, Bundy Ranch, traveling with them, meeting the family, knowing them personally. Ryan Bundy actually is running for governor of Nevada, and Ron Paul is endorsing him. So we've got some great things happening in this country constitutionally, and with Americans stepping up to the plate and demanding our republic back. And we have a president who has spoken of the republic, of being a republic, a sovereign nation. And it's very important to hear President Trump's words regarding the American people. He distinguishes very eloquently between the United States citizen and the American people. So for those out there who I know have studied for years and who work very hard to bring our country and our republic back, those men and women across the country now are being vindicated because we do have a president who's no longer ignoring our Constitution, who is doing a lot for we the people. And one of the big things that we've talked about the last couple of times I've been on has to do with the case I filed, Powers versus Bank of New York Mellon et al. This is a very big case regarding contract fraud that has stolen my title to my home through every document of fraud and contract fraud there could be upon case. We also brought in June the civil joinder of criminal actions because Judge Carter, Judge Sledgehammer Carter, as he is now known in California and throughout the country, promised indictments on this, what he called a compensable case. And he was also very clear that even though the opposing counsel, the defendants for Commonwealth Land Title Insurance Company, Quality Loan Servicing Corporation, Select Portfolio Servicing Incorporated, Bank of New York Mellon as trustee, Bank of America, NA, all of them have tried to discredit this case, calling it frivolous and saying that it had no merits. And Judge Carter was very specific and, quote, said this is not a frivolous case. And this case will be won or lost on its merits. And he is giving truth to the fact that we as pro-per in this country, without attorneys at times, and as all who have listened to this story from me before know, we've been in and out of attorneys. And currently the last attorney, who still has not signed off on my case, by the way, gentlemen, I fired on August 10th. We've had a back and forth, but the judge is very specific. He wanted me to have an attorney. And now I can say I've done everything he's told me to do. I let him know I had a hard time finding an attorney I could trust. And then when I thought I had an attorney I could trust, this attorney was threatened with her bar card for going against the banks. And President Donald Trump has discussed America bringing the Federal Reserve back to America, which in terminology means back to the people and to the American people who hold the beneficial interest in the accounts at the Fed Reserve. This is very big. And our case brought 50 to 70 people to that courtroom as interested parties. They sent in documentation of all the crimes committed against them by the banks. We have proven through congressional laws and congressional intent that these bankers have no authority to be doing business in the several states. They have no ability to lend credit to the people and public at large. The only place of business is in the insular territories and Washington, D.C. Insular territories are not the several states, people. All of these illegal foreclosures, all of these land grabs, the BLM coming in and staking claim and ownership, the federal government claiming ownership to property, we know they have no right. This is not ports and military forts. They can't just, they being the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, and the federal agencies, come in and grab land and territory from the people. We have constitutional rights. Think about the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the Seventh Amendment. We have rights to our property. And the banks, these laws have been on the books 100 some years. Congressional intent was to never allow a foreign invasion of these bankers. And yet that's what's happened here, the usurpation of our entire country, from healthcare, from buying your shoes, from buying a refrigerator, from walking in and believing you're signing escrow documents to buy a home. Everything is prepaid. Everything. There is no debt that is not prepaid. And in order for any of these banks to lend anything, even to a fellow bank, a foreign bank, there has to be a 100% cash collateral deposit equaling the credit of which is being advanced. So what this means is listen to Wells Fargo hearings, all of it. Listen to those Wells Fargo hearings. Listen to what's going on still to this day with Wells Fargo. They admit these are credit card accounts. They're unsecured credit card accounts because you cannot secure that which doesn't really exist other than on paper. These fictitious accounts are created through double book entries. They're creating fake securities. And these trusts, like Bank of New York Mellon is trustee for Seawalt 2007-HY9, all of these trusts, thousands of them, are empty. The collateral they are supposed to hold is the 100% cash collateral deposit. So now I've given a little bit of update here on why this case is so important. We're now seeing homeowners across the country beginning to win cases and become more in control of their cases. And yet every day this week, since I spoke to you gentlemen last Wednesday, I've had the phone calls. On Saturday morning, for instance, I had a phone call out of Ohio. The woman was crying. She was sitting on a porch. 6 sheriff cars had shown up at her house, even though she'd proven the entire illegal foreclosure was all rife and uttered with documentation of fraud. 6 sheriff cars rolled up onto her house, handcuffed her family, said they weren't arresting them, but yet they drugged them down to the police station, or sheriff station, excuse me, and then kept them while their entire house was emptied out, all of their belongings. She and I cried together Saturday morning. She said, I thought President Trump listened to you. I heard that radio show. I heard it. They said President Trump was listening. And I said, you know, I'm having faith that he's hearing us. And we must remember this fraud, these bankers have such a stranglehold that it's going to take time. But I firmly believe, yes, President Trump is listening. He's hearing that all of these homes have been stolen through fraud. Now I've had problems because the paralegal that was involved had wanted a percentage of the case and is no longer helping. But yet I'm hearing there's seminars being attended and all kinds of new things that are expensive happening for this paralegal. Folks, I'm telling you, these bankers, they're good. They've got the credits, they've got the bank accounts to just throw as much as they can to destroy good cases. Well, I'm not going away, and I've got a great team behind this, still working very hard. Right now, we're doing it all with me pro per. I have a retired tribal judge coming in to help, who is an amazing man. He's also a doctor. Carl Collicott is still on board. We still have a very strong team. All of the people who are experts and our expert witness are Jane Doe, who is under seal to come in and discuss the 1933 Banking Act and how everything is prepaid and we're the bank. So this week has been a roller coaster of emotions. The holy fire, here we go again with the fires. The holy fire started again. And I've still got a home that's unprotected. But this is not an anomaly. So we've got people, again this morning, I told you about the woman on Saturday. She was one of 5 different phone calls I've had this week, again, with mothers with children being thrown out of their homes, with rogue sheriffs and rogue police involved, with district attorneys ignoring these crimes and actually participating in them, with county municipalities and comptrollers of the currencies actually making and benefiting from these foreclosures. Because remember, we know that Obamacare was tied into the GSEs and all of the illegal foreclosures through the recordation fraud in the land records. We know that. We know that the Treasury admitted over $500 billion was laundered through the Treasury for Obamacare. We know that over $520 billion was missing from HUD. We know that over 500 million was laundered through Fannie and Freddie. So you start doing the math and people saying, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to recover? Well, with this case, Powers versus Bank of New York Mellon, the civil criminal joinder, of which we filed the motion for reconsideration that still has not hit the docket, we are clearly saying this case must go to the DOJ as a key tam because it is worth hundreds of trillions of dollars in fines and a lifetime for every banker in prison. Let me repeat that. Hundreds of trillions of dollars in fines and a lifetime of prison for the bankers. That is how serious this case is. These illegal foreclosures, stealing homes, are all being done through contract fraud. All of us fighting, especially this case right now. I can tell you these defendants, these bankers, these servicers, they're bellying up and threatening people. That's the only answer we can come up with, because all of a sudden, I had a new paralegal that was coming aboard last week. Totally excited to be a part of history. And then all of a sudden went quiet. And when I approached with the question, have you been solicited not to assist anymore? Dark, all dark, crickets. So hundreds of trillions of dollars in fines for violations of the congressional laws that have been on the books for 100 years, and countless years in prison, lifetimes in prison for every banker. Gentlemen, I can tell you right now, after the week I've had, and Tom can tell you, I have talked to him and I've said, Tom, there are days I just can't believe I'm in the middle of this, that I'm not stopping. But I can tell you, it doesn't mean I don't wake and cry and just wonder when we are going to hear there's a moratorium on foreclosure and there's a moratorium on the theft of private property and usurpation of our accounts at the Fed window. So this is an update. This is also a plea to President Trump and a thank you. Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for protecting the women and children, the Americans of this country. And thank you for reaching out and giving Judge Carter, giving him the opportunity to walk away from having to have this in his courtroom by telling him, send it to the DOJ, demand that the DOJ take this case, key Tam, and demand these indictments come down, because they are deserved and it is beyond time. We must bring the Fed Reserve back to the American people. We must end the theft of private property. No residential real property has any business being stolen by these bankers and these attorneys. And for anyone who believes in the 13th Amendment, no attorney should be sitting in any public service. So that's my update, gentlemen. And I thank you, because this morning I woke up and I have cried so much today, not in just exhaustion, but just in being weary and being hurt and hurting for other women and children that I keep getting calls from, who are being wrongfully thrown out of their homes, handcuffed and taken down to stations while their homes are being ransacked and everything they own is being stolen. We can't have this in America any longer. So we're looking forward to going forward. I'm looking forward to getting my family back home, because these crooks have no right to keep my home. We're going to do everything we can. This week, we're concentrating on getting my home back and getting possession back, because not only is no one in it, unless there's squatters, I don't know. I don't even know what the condition of my home is. But if I don't get back in my home, the roof is going to fall in this winter. And that's unacceptable. We cannot have any more roofs falling in on families because of the theft of our residential private property, and our usurpation being that all of our beneficial interests from that Fed Reserve that was set up beautifully for the people to benefit. And yet the bankers have come in illegally against every congressional law and have taken control of every caveat of our lives. This is why when people say, oh, why isn't the mainstream media picking up? Who owns the mainstream media? The bankers. Who funded Obamacare? Stolen homes with the help of the bankers. Why do we have no health care in this country? Ask the bankers. So thank you for this time tonight, gentlemen. And it's time for our ranchers to heal. It's time for us to bring back agriculture and to grow our foods and not have our farmers. By the way, this week I've heard of another farmer suicide. Suicide amongst the agricultural community, our farmers, is epidemic right now, and that's unacceptable. And having been to Bundy Ranch, having experienced the complete and utter judicial fraud that has stolen so much, and have witnessed 2 years of these men's lives sitting in prison, and we still have men in prison who have done nothing. Todd Engel, he is sitting in prison because of what the indictment said against him. He wasn't indicted. He wasn't found guilty of the indictment charges, but the judge gave him a sentence because of the indictment. How much sense does that make? If we cannot protect our farmers, if we cannot protect our mothers and children, if we cannot stop and have our president put an end to these illegal foreclosures and put an end to these bankers controlling our country, then we have no country. Our country was built on the back of people working hard, growing food. There's some people who seriously don't even know where the food comes from on the grocery shelves. Where do they think oranges come from? You know, they aren't just 3D printed on a printer. And nor are our families' homes. Our families' homes are built on the sweat equity of our parents, of our mothers, of our fathers, of our sisters, of our brothers, of Americans. We bleed red, white, and blue. But it's time that we quit allowing the bankers to bleed us dry, when in fact they're nothing but middlemen, brokers, stealing from the Fed Reserve window, and it's got to stop. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for giving me back my voice this week and giving me the ability to feel like I can go on. I really appreciate this time tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, we've got Ammon Bundy as our next guest, the brother of Ryan Bundy. Now, we've had Ryan on here, and we've also had Mr. Bundy on here. And Ryan has a very good case that he's going to be speaking on, including the fact they're trying to re-indict him after his case has been thrown out of court. And Mr. Bundy has a message I think that everybody should pay attention to, because what he has to say, folks, could happen to us, each and every one of us. You know, this is America. This is a constitutional country. It is not a Muslim country. It is not a third world country. It's America, and we're still free, and we'll fight to keep it free, and so will the Bundys. So, Mr. Bundy, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. And I'll just turn it over to you and take as much time as you need. As I explained to you before, nobody's going to interrupt you. I don't want to break your chain of thought. Just let the world know what's going on and the corruption that's going on and the rights they're violating and what they're doing to you and your family and continue doing. So go ahead, sir.
Well, I guess I'd like to start by saying my family is just a simple ranching family. You know, maybe over the years and because of what's happened to us, we've been viewed as something more than that. But we are just a simple ranching family. I grew up in the same home that my father grew up on the ranch. our ranches in southern Nevada, as most of you probably know. And but from time to time, and as things have progressed, and as different things have happened, and we'll talk about here in a little bit. I've been afraid that people will forget that we're just an American ranching family. We're just a family that has been ranching in that southern Nevada desert for 140 plus years now. Our forefathers came in 1877 and basically carved it very hard and dry living out of the southern Nevada desert. And that heritage has been passed on to from generation to generation until now. It's in my father's hands, and he is simply holding ranch, just like my forefathers have. And what those that we say are in government, or that we call government, especially the federal government, has done is come and claimed that the rights that were established by my forefathers, legally, constitutionally, and in every other way, that there are vested rights. These federal agents and agencies have claimed our rights as theirs. And they're doing it all over the West, and they're actually, been doing it on the East for a long time. And, but it started out as just us being a simple ranching family. I grew up feeding cows, riding horses, routing cows, rounding up cows, and roping, and branding, and all the other things that are required. We raised alfalfa hay on the actual farm that's irrigated from the Virgin River. There's a lot of history there as well. That hay was typically used to feed our cattle when we decided to feed them out, if we weren't going to sell them as cows. And or some of the good years when we were raising a lot of hay, we were actually selling it. And some of our hay was good enough to be sold to, for horse hay or even for dairy hay. And so primarily we're a ranch, actually a relatively fairly small ranch in comparison to a lot of the ranches in the West, and especially in the Midwest. And that's who we are. So I ask people listening not to forget that we're just the same, we're a family that, eat around the kitchen table and just trying to make a living, do all of it. We've just been trying to, stay afloat and just to keep our heritage. And anyway, wanted to kind of bring that up and just say that at the beginning a little bit. I'm not accustomed to just talking. Usually I do this in more of an interview type setting, and so bear with me if I have to stop and think and kind of get direction for my thoughts. I don't have any training as far as communication goes or radio training other than just experience being on the radio. As far as some current events that are happening when it comes to our case and others, I would like to bring a little attention to a horse rancher in Idaho, in Payette, Idaho, and he's been in the horse business for 45 years. He's well known. He's the owner of the Colt 45 Horse Ranch. Sells horses all over the country. He's got some premium bloodline and very desired horses. And it wasn't but about a month ago that he, in one of his holding pens, that's actually within city limits, he's got several different places he keeps his horses, and he manages them. And during the summer here, about a month ago, someone came onto his property and disconnected the hose that was supplying one of the water tanks to water the horses. Now the problem is he checks these horses about every four days. You know, he's got about 300 horses, and he's been doing this for a long, long time. But the problem is that when he disconnected the hose, they dropped it on the ground, not thinking. I don't think it was done maliciously. At least no one knows what it was. But it siphoned the tank dry. And the horses got dry. There was green grass in the field, but it was still pretty, wasn't really, really lush green. And those horses overheated. There was 5 of them. And the neighbors saw that the horses were overheating and thirsty. And so they went over there and gave the horses some cold water and sprayed them down. And 4 of them died. And one of them, the owner was able to get over there fast enough and kept walking there, and he saved their life. But it's very unfortunate. It wasn't the owners, the ranchers. It wasn't his fault that the tank was drained. But the neighbors and the others around, including some environmental groups, got wind of this, and they snuck over onto the property and took some pictures of the dead horses, and they blasted it all over, and this became like a witch hunt, I guess I call it a lynch, really. And the local police department got a hold of this, and they got out there, and now what's happened is they are prosecuting this rancher, and he's facing out to 4 years in prison. And also, he's also facing the penalty that if he's actually found guilty of these charges, which is animal abuse and animal neglect charges, he will never be able to own another horse the rest of his life. Now, this is a man that has lived horses his entire life. He loves horses, and in fact, this is a man that not many years ago was viewed as a hero, because during one of the fires that was caused from poor management on the land, and I'm not talking to private land, I'm talking to public land, land management. Because of this poor management, there was a huge fire, and it was threatening a herd of his horses. And he went up there and went through the fire line and disobeyed the fire chief and the fire marshals or whoever it was there. Disobeyed them, went right through the fire line, down through a canal, got to his horses. He stomped out a path through the fire, and the horses actually followed him, and he saved those horses' lives. Now, they were all sick, they were hurting, and they were hurt, but every one of them lived, and every one of them survived, and he still owns several of those horses for some of his good breeding stock. Now, this same man is being accused of neglect and abuse to his horses because someone else took the hose off a water tank and passed it out. I hope inadvertently. But and now he's being prosecuted, and he's facing 4 years in prison, some hefty fine, and the restriction of ever owning a horse again the rest of his life. So I want to ask the question to to out there. Is it too dangerous to be a cowboy in America? Is it too dangerous to be a farmer? To be in the agricultural industry? Because after what I've gone through the last 4 years, 5 years, after what my father's gone through almost his entire life, and after what many of our ranch families around us, all over the West, and even out east, I have to say that it is too dangerous to be in agriculture. But not only are we faced with the struggle of day in and day out of just making a living, but we're also now faced with, by making a living, being prosecuted and in prison. So I ask another question. If it's too dangerous to be in agriculture in America, then who's going to feed America? Do we really think that we can outsource our food supply to Asia, China? Is that really the plan? That we have regions that provide food and certain services, and then we have other regions that provide services. Then we have other regions that provide, different industries, and somehow we're all going to be secure and work together, and that's all going to be for the benefit of good of everybody in the world. Is that the plan? I don't know. I'm just proposing that. Is that the plan? Because it doesn't seem like a very wise idea for America to lose its agricultural. What happens when we get in a dispute with Asia or China? They no longer want to feed us. Do they not have the power to destroy us by that? What happens when we in America have forgot how to grow food or to raise livestock? Because we're not allowed to do it or it's too risky. What do we do then? You can't just pick those things right back up. They take generations to learn. Even the ground itself takes years and years to develop so that it'll grow a crop. And now we just it appears that our country and our people take no value in that. We build houses all over our agricultural land, especially in the West, and we ask, well, why? Why do we build houses on our farm ground? And then when you see the West, how it's controlled, over 50% of it's controlled by the federal government, and they won't let you build a house anywhere but on the private farm ground. And you ask why? To this horse rancher in Fayette, Idaho, I don't know if you're listening or if you'll get this message, but I tell you to hang on, hang in there. Don't allow them to tarnish your good reputation, your 45 years of wonderful horse trading, and your beautiful ranch that I've seen pictures of, and your beautiful horses that I've looked over. Hang in there. Because there are enough people out here that we care and understand to know. And hopefully what it comes down to is saying no. And that's what my father did, Clive Bundy. When they came to him and said, we are going to take your ranch and we are going to make it a mitigation area for the desert forest. And no longer take a ranch there or your neighbors. There's 53 ranchers. My dad now is the only one left. And when they said this, my dad said no. He said, no, you will not take my heritage, you will not take my livelihood, you will not take what I plan on passing down to my children, you will not take that away. And when they said, well, Mr. Bundy, it doesn't matter that you say no. When they said this, and they said, we're going to take it anyway, then my dad said, hell no. And then he said, I'll do whatever it takes. And you will not take my rent. And that's what he kept saying. I will do whatever it takes. And they wanted to know, what is whatever it takes? The law enforcement agencies, federal law enforcement agencies, the county law enforcement agencies, even the state law enforcement agencies. They wanted to know what whatever it takes meant. And my dad would say, whatever it takes. They'd say, what does that mean? It means whatever it takes. And now they're finding out. Those people are finding out whatever it takes. They found out in 2014, they found out in 2016, and they found out through the 2 years they had us in prison over 2 major federal trials, whatever it takes. They're finding out what that means. They were threatening us, our family. And when I say our family and friends, I mean there was 29 of us, including my brothers and father, were in prison for nearly 2 years. And during that 2 years, the U.S. prosecutors, who in my opinion are some of the most wicked men I've ever come in face with, and they put charges on us with minimum sentences. So the minimum that we could be sentenced if we were found guilty of these charges was 106 years. And they tried to scare us. They kept us away from our families. They would not let us have any physical contact with them. For almost 2 years, I was not able to touch, hold, or even see face to face my little family, my wife, and my children. I have 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls, and my youngest was barely 1 year old when this happened. And I got home on his 3rd birthday. Actually drove home 10 hours from Las Vegas to get to my home. And I got there about 15 minutes before midnight because I felt it was so important that I was home on his birthday. But I hadn't been able to hold him and touch him that entire time, neither my other children and neither my wife. And my brothers were the same, my father, and many friends. And just the Bundy family alone, I believe there was 26 children that were left home without their fathers. And our wives, my wife and my sister-in-laws and my mother, and many others, their husbands walked away, suffered tremendously. And part of the great suffering was not knowing, that they were threatened to take our lives away and to imprison us for the rest of our lives. And not knowing whether we would prevail or not was very difficult for everybody. And we believed we would. And we knew we had to stay strong. But we didn't know. And that was difficult for everybody. So we're facing this 106 years. The prosecutors from time to time would come to different people and, eventually most of us, and they would say, if you'll plead out to these charges, we'll only give you 21 years. or if you plea out to these charges, we'll only give you 7 or 8 years. Or, that was the lowest I heard from some of the, less culpable, if you will, people that they arrested. And so, but we knew that we could not plead to something we did not do. Nor could we give them the power that they would receive by us making a deal with them. And so we did not do that. And we suffered tremendously through prison, through solitary confinement, through abuses, through forced strip searches, and many other things. Because we would not admit that we were guilty of something that they said that we did. And that was difficult. But that was part of what my dad was talking about when he said, we'll do whatever it takes. And I might get into a little more detail about that later. In 2017, I spent more days in solitary confinement than I spent out. They broke my hip. They broke my left eardrum, cracked my front teeth. They left handcuffs on me to the point where blood circulation cut off and damage to my inside nerves on both hands. And one time, heading to our own trial, that was after we got them to actually bring us to our own trial. The marshals roughed us up in the elevator, trying to get us, a little ruffled and caused my brother and I's hands, arms, wrists to bleed because of the handcuffs, and many, many other things. But nothing was more painful than being separated from our wives and our families, our little children, and not having freedom to move and to think and to act, to being forced constantly. That was painful. And to see your family struggling and suffering out there and feeling so helpless. I compare it to like there's a natural disaster in your community, in your area, and your kids are across the valley, if you will. Your wife and children are across the valley, and maybe the grocery store or school or something, and there's this natural disaster, and they're in great harm's way, and they're suffering, and you're across the valley, and you cannot get to them. And that's probably one of the best ways I can explain the feelings that we had for nearly 2 years. And you have to ask why. Why did this happen? Why, when we were first arrested and they would not give us bail, why did the prosecutors say to our attorneys that we were the most dangerous men that they'd ever prosecuted? Why did they, and these prosecutors, our attorneys their jaws dropped when they heard this, because they knew that these prosecutors had prosecuted men such as a white supremacist that waited in the bushes and killed an entire black family. And somehow in these men's eyes, these prosecutors' eyes, somehow we were more dangerous by their own words than this white supremacist who would kill a whole family. And that's how we were treated and how we were viewed. And it still is mind-boggling to me to think about that. To think of how a family that's just ranching, pretty much minding their own business, just living, loving their neighbor, going to church, helping.
Having some audio problems, Johnny.
We should.
Okay, just a second. Can you hear okay now?
Are you okay there?
Okay, yeah, hang on, Mr. Bundy. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
So I asked, how can we go from being a ranching family, loving our neighbor, going to church, helping, doing the best we can, and being part of the community? How can we go from that to the most dangerous men that the U.S. prosecutors have ever prosecuted? Again, it's mind-boggling to think about, but it has happened. And I've had it, explained and even explained it myself that in reality, we maybe are some of the most dangerous men that they've ever prosecuted. The most dangerous to them and their wicked ways and their taking of power, usurping power, and the stealing of property, the taking of life and liberty. So maybe we should be happy. Maybe we should be pleased that they say we're the most dangerous men that they've ever prosecuted. The most dangerous to them and their wicked system. And evidently that must be what they meant, or at least that's the truth of it. Because through the strength of God, through his protection and power and his intervention, we have stripped some of their power down, weakened it. And we've done this because we weren't willing to compromise our liberties, and because the American people surrounded around us, supported us, and helped fight for these liberties that mean so much to all of us. And I would like to personally say thank you. Thank you for the tremendous support. Thank you for your letters. I received approximately, I don't want to exaggerate, but it has to be anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 letters while I was incarcerated. And I can tell you this, that in solitary confinement, when they would let me have my letters, when you're locked in there, day in, day out, month in, month out, and you haven't seen the sun or the natural light for literally months, or breathe the fresh air, or even get out of your little 10x7 square block for months, and you get a letter of support from somebody who just is trying to explain the best they can gratitude or encouragement, or just to give you a little bit of life outside that cell. In that situation, a letter like that goes so far. And I want to thank everybody who wrote letters to me, and to my family, and to many friends who supported us in that way. And then there are those who supported our families on the outside. So much support, moral support. and even coming to our homes and helping us on the farm, and it's just loving our children, and even helping and assisting financially, being the primary breadwinners. Going without an income for 2 years is difficult. But not one of us lost their homes. Not one of us have been divorced or planning on getting divorced, at least I hope not. And so, and I have to contribute that to God and fellow patriots. Well, thank you. Again, I would like to propose something to the audience here, if I could. Something else, I guess, and that is, who is the enemy? I mean, we see these devastating occurrences taking place. We see it all over. But it's almost like we can't pinpoint who the enemy is. There's been a lot of discussion of late about, law enforcement being the enemy, or not the enemy. There's been, almost a divide, it seems like, in the patriot community, if you will, about, what responsibility the law enforcement takes in all of this. So, I asked, are they the enemy? Or is it the elected representatives, the politicians? Are they the enemy? Or is it the bureaucrats? Those that are filling, full-time government positions, or that are employed by the government, not necessarily elected, or not necessarily law enforcement, but heads of these agencies, in the federal, state, county levels. Are they the enemy? And what are they really doing? Or have we just made this all up? That's actually what the FBI and a lot of these agencies, state, local, and federal agencies want people to believe, that there's this group of, so-called patriots, as they put in their fingers up to quote, as quotation, so-called patriots that just are making this whole thing up. That there's really not a liberty crisis. That it is being spun as something that's really not. And so is that the case? Or are we truly losing our liberty? And if we are, well, what does that mean? And who is taking that? What does it mean? What does it mean to lose your liberty? What does it mean to lose freedom? What does freedom mean? Because I don't think that we can all get on one page and unite in enough strength to combat this great enemy that is so powerful that we can't even identify. So deceptive and so deceiving and so cunning and manipulative that we can't even decide or agree on who the enemy is. And to be honest with you, most of us can't even decide on what freedom is, what liberty really is, what it looks like. I mean, does it look like what it is now? Does it look like what America was 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago? Because we're not in the same place that we were 200 years ago as far as freedom go, as far as freedom. goes. Well, what is freedom? What is liberty? I suppose it's a long ways above what we have now in this country. Don't get me wrong. The United States is still a pretty wonderful place to live. And for the most part, we feel that we can be free to move about. I would like to propose a few things. If I could get my thoughts together and ask to do this. But I would like to propose to you some scenarios, or at least present to you some scenarios, and let you think about maybe what freedom is and what it is not. And then maybe we can identify who the taker of those liberties are, or who's the robber of liberty. And so I present to you someone who wants to buy a cow, milk that cow, and then sell that milk to the neighbors. And we're talking about a willing buyer and a willing seller. Both are adult. Are we free to do that in this country? If any of you said, yes, you're wrong. We're not free to do that. Now, who would be the ones to not allow that to happen? Well, there's been many cases. You can look them up yourself. I can talk about some cases specifically, but the FDA, Federal Drug Administration, have arrested many different people, farmers, agriculturalists, who have tried to sell milk to their neighbors, their adult neighbors, as a willing buyer and willing seller, have been arrested and spent years in prison because of it. Fined, lost their ranches, and what is the FDA's justification, if you will, in that? That it was not safe, they say, or that they did not have permission to sell the milk. What about eggs? What about milk? What about meat? I didn't say. I already covered that. What about meat? Give you an example of a family that I knew, a very good family, hard-working family in Arizona. They had a processing plant. And I knew them firsthand. I actually did business with them. I went to their plant many times. They became a family friend of mine. And so this is not hearsay. This is firsthand account of what happened. And this man was, along with the other plant, processing plants, were collecting the samples from the cattle that they were processing. They were collecting the samples to be tested for mad cow disease. And the whole thing was a racket anyway. The federal government was, not to get too much into the mad cow disease, but there was one incident that was in Canada that was unrelated to any food product that was given to humans. But because it was there was something found. There ended up being this mad cow chaos, if you will, and so they started testing cattle. And they paid these processing plants to take the samples and it into them. And now these processing plants, just so you know, in order to be USDA certified, you actually have to pay for a federal inspector to actually be on the premise of your processing plant. You have to pay for their wages, you have to pay for their offices, and basically for anything that they need to be able to inspect your plant. And so this plant, like all others, has this inspector, and he watched them take the sample off these cattle, send to the testing for that cow. After several years of this going on, the federal government came in and raided this processing plant with AR-15, and I think it was around 20 operators, federal agents, terrifying the entire crew, putting them on the ground, handcuffing them all, and then several of them were arrested, and no one even knew why until they get them into their federal prison and start interrogating, and it comes out that evidently they were taking these tests incorrectly and sending them in. How that works, 20 guys coming in with AR-15, putting them to people's heads, terrorizing them, shutting down their plant. How that justifies that, I do not know. Ultimately, what happened was they threatened the owner, who was my friend, or at least my friend's father, and my friend worked there. He was the son and basically run the plant. But they threatened the father with many years of imprisonment and heavy fine if he did not take the deal and admit doing something wrong. So he did. He ended up spending a year in prison. I think he paid $400,000 in fine. They made him a felon and ruled that he could never own a profit, or he could never process meat ever again. This is what this man knew. This was his livelihood. And then they took his facility, they bulldozed it. And I'm not exaggerating when I say these. These are facts. I am not exaggerating in one measure. And so now this man, what does he do? After being out of prison, he's looked upon by the community, he's scorned by the community as a felon and looked down, and he had to completely leave his trade and his love in agriculture, and now he's in the air conditioning business. He's an air conditioning technician, and he goes and helps and climbs on buildings in Phoenix, Arizona, as a 65-year-old man or something to that effect. I don't know his exact age, but I know he's got to be in his 60s. He's not mid or more, actually, because of the age of his children. He's got to be well in his 60s. And he's on those hot roofs, fixing air conditioners. And he's not complaining. And he's actually done pretty good. He's a hard-working man and knows how to work. What a terrible story, though.
Yeah.
Is it dangerous in America being agriculture?
You know, it's a shame what they get away with. It is just a shame. But I don't usually interrupt, but you've opened up some subjects tonight, and I hope you open up some more that make people really think. So I apologize for interrupting with you. Go ahead.
No, I kind of need that, actually. I appreciate it. You can interrupt anytime you want. Again, I'm not used to just talking, and hopefully I, making some sense here. I'm just trying to show your listeners and help them understand what the agriculture community is going through and how devastating it is to America and who truly is doing this. Now, go back to this example, because I was trying to identify who the enemy is and what freedom truly is. Because I believe the ability to trade through a willing buyer and willing seller to adults, being able to trade without harming anybody else, I believe is a huge part of liberty.
Second, just one. Okay, I got it back.
Am I still on?
Okay, you folks still here?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, go ahead, because my computer just crashed on me. Okay, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
So identifying who is the enemy. I don't know how much you heard or if I got cut off, but who is the enemy and what is freedom? Because as I said earlier, I believe that being able to freely trade between consenting adult, willing buyer, willing seller, being able to do this freely without being threatened by the force of law is a crucial part of being able to live free. And when we look at these cases, who is taking that freedom away? It is bureaucrats. And what I mean by bureaucrats is the full-time government employees that are saying that their rules and regulations, their permission is more important than your freedom to freely trade between two adults. You have to get permission from us first. And of course, they have all kinds of excuses and justifications for why that's necessary. And many, many people, even probably listening now, saying, "Well, Ammon, you gotta have some rules. You gotta have some boundaries." And yeah, you do. The boundary is you cannot do or trade in a manner which hurts somebody else. You can't somebody to trade with you. Those are the boundaries. Those are the boundaries of freedom. That is what the law is supposed to protect us from. The law is not supposed to hinder us from being able to trade or to trade with a willing person who is an adult and has the ability to make their own decisions. And so then we say, okay, it's these agencies that are making the rules and placing these regulations upon our free trade. So then we say, well, who is enforcing them? And that is the enforcement agencies or enforcement bodies of each of these agencies. Did you know that the Department of Education has a SWAT team? Did you know that the Bureau of Land Management has an army? I've seen that army, at least a part of it. And since the Bundy Ranch, since that army converged upon our family, they've only built that army. They've been funded even more heavily. They've added more MLAMs, more helicopters, more armories, more equipment. even before. They have no intention on losing if they are confronted with what they were confronted with at the Bundy Ranch. And so I do say that the bureaucrats play a tremendous part, that they are the primary robbers of liberty. And I also say that any enforcement officer, no matter what agency he's in, if he chooses to enforce the taking of liberty, then he also is a robber of liberty. And so, take it for what it is. Now, I could probably talk for a long time about these issues, but I could, even get more prepared and maybe talk in a little more depth about certain things. But I would like you to think and keep in the back of your mind and keep thinking about what liberty really is, what freedom really looks like, and who truly is the enemy. And then maybe we can unite on these issues. Maybe we can actually say, okay, this is what liberty looks like. For example, free trade. To freely trade. Okay, that's one of the requirements to be free. And then maybe we look at other issues such as the freedom of religion, meaning be able to worship. Maybe that is a requirement. And we can go down through these lists. They don't have to be very long. And we can unite on these issues. And we can decide, okay, look, we can, agree, if you will, that this is what freedom is. This is what liberty. And once we've done that, I think then and only then can we identify who the robbers of liberty are. Who the enemy of freedom is. It may be your neighbor. It may be the very person you thought was protecting you. And once we've done that, then maybe we can decide what needs to happen in order to restore, because there's certainly a need for restoration of liberty. What we need to do to restore and to maintain liberty in this great country. And then we're getting somewhere. Because what I've seen in the Patriot community is a tremendous amount of good and a great desire. But I have not seen us unite completely on what liberty and freedom really looks like and who really is the enemy and really what it takes and what it's going to take to restore, maintain, and preserve our liberty. And I think I'll wrap it up there.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'd like you to touch on one other thing. But I want to invite you back to where we have more time, to where we can get you in, to where we can cover the liberty. One that I would like for you to touch on, I want them to know what they're trying to do to you now, trying to recharge you again. I'd like to have everybody aware of this so we can get it out to all of our listeners, if you don't mind.
Not at all. So, as many of you know, we were early January of 2016. Several of us fought a very publicized trial in Oregon, and we were acquitted on all charges up there. It was, it was a tremendous experience, one that I will always give the credit and to God for a simple miracle. And then after that, we were transferred down to Nevada, and we spent over a year down in Nevada in prison down there, federal detention centers, fighting another case and going through another trial. They split us up, where ultimately with our case or in our trial, there was so much that was exposed as far as the wickedness of the Bureau of Land Management, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the U.S. prosecutors. So much was uncovered in their corruption and their bias and just wickedness towards our family. That the judge had no other option but to dismiss the charges, dismiss the case. And so she dismissed it, and then 2 weeks later, she dismissed it with prejudice, which means it can never come back and re-prosecute us. Meaning, basically, due process was violated to such a point that the prosecutors could never retry us. However, about a month ago, the prosecutors, these very same prosecutors that have been trying to destroy my family for over 20 years, appealed the judge's decision to the Ninth Circuit, asking the Ninth Circuit to force the judge to reconsider prosecuting us. And that's where it sits right now. So after all we've gone through and everything that we've been involved in, and after all their corruption and it being completely exposed, the court fully acknowledging it. Some of the transcripts of actually what the court has said to the prosecutors in their, gross misconduct, as the court said, extreme bias and prejudice, among many other terms. Even with all this being said, these same prosecutors, one, are still have their job. Really haven't even been, they send up motions, really anything. And they sell their jobs, and now they have decided that they're going to push it even further and try to push it up to the Ninth Circuit, where they hope that they can get enough liberal judges up there to decide that they're going to re-prosecute us. And that's where it's at.
Okay, well, I'm sure you know the laws pretty well, but you do know that there is a law where you can file a lawsuit against the prosecuting attorneys, even the judges, for malicious prosecution. You know that, right?
I do know that well. But I would like to ask you and the American people, in what court are we going to get justice?
Well, I think things are getting ready to turn around a whole lot. And the reason I say this is because I do know that Trump is working on some things. And he's got people that monitor us as well as him himself. But here's what here's something that might be of interest to you. Monday, we're going to have a speaker out of Texas. His name is Kenny. He's a rancher. You remember the Red River, when BLM was trying to take the Red River from, went down the Red River, they were taking the Land from the Ranchers down there?
Absolutely.
Okay, Ken Earhart is a really good friend of mine. Well, he was one of those ranchers, and they took BLM to federal court down there, and these cases may help you. He's going to be our speaker. They sued the BLM, and they won, and BLM was ordered out of the state of Texas. Now he's going to be our speaker Friday. You may want to be in on the show with us on this, because he can give you law case statuses that may be able to help you in your problem.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I'd like to, hear the, that was going on before we got arrested, and then, kind of process went on while we were in frustration, so we weren't able to, know much about it. But in my opinion, I might be wrong, but in my opinion, what made the difference there is that the state, including the governor, said, no way. You're not taking this land from citizens of our state.
Actually, they brought in 2 extra federal judges, from what I understand, and they ruled against the BLM. And
I understand that. But when you have the pressure of the state on these federal judges, and you got the pressure of a governor and the people behind the governor, then you have something that is compelling enough to get judges to do the right thing. But when you're facing, like my family has, pleading for the state to stand up for its own sovereignty, and when the state won't do it because of many different reasons, but mostly they're afraid to lose federal funding, then you stand alone pretty much as a family. And that's not as compelling to a liberal federal judge. I'm just presenting that. I'm not saying that that's the issue, because I really don't know.
Right.
But I know that that's been the case in my father's case, and in many others across the West. These states, my point is the state need to stand up and say, not in my state. The governors need to stand up. The elected representatives need to unite and stand up. And the people need to stand, as they did at the Bundy Ranch, and say, you're not going to do this. No matter how much you think, but no matter how much you manipulate and deceive to try to make it look like you have authority to do what you're doing, you're not going to do it. So, anyway, sorry, I kind of.
Oh no, that's no problem. However, what I'm saying is he may give you some caseloads and stuff in his discussion you might be able to use for ammunition on what they've tried to do to you guys.
I agree. I would. It would be very informational to talk to him. And anyway,
actually,
glad to hear that they were able to preserve that part of their ranch.
Right. Well, it wasn't just their ranch; it was a bunch of ranchers down the Red River. Now, yeah. What I will do after the show, I will give you his number, even and have you contact him. It might help you. I'll do everything we can to help you, Mr. Bundy.
Thank you.
You are a great family. Your dad is a really nice guy. In fact, when you guys were arrested, prior to that, I had talked to your father, and we had men out there waiting to back you folks up. What I will do is I will give you his phone number, and you can make contacts with him. You might even be able to contact his lawyers, and they may be able to give you some insight that will help in your situation completely.
Well, thank you. I would accept that number. I know that before we were arrested, we were in contact with him. But since then, I know that at least myself I have not, or do not even have his contact information anymore. So.
Okay. Well, like I said, he's been a friend of my family's for a lot of years, and he's known us for a lot of years. We had men on standby if need be, and actually, we were the only Patriot group that he would trust to come in with him. So that made me really honored. But I'll tell you what, it's been an honor to have you on the show. And like I said, would like to bring you back real soon in the near future. We'd like to reschedule you to where we can actually get you into our radio show where we don't have to use a telephone.
Okay, well, yeah, let me know. I will do my best to come on, and hopefully it does some good.
Well,
we're doing some good.
You gave a message and an insight to what you went through that others have had no idea. We were kept in the dark, like most of America, and our heart went out to you folks, and we'll continue having you in our prayers. If what I'll do, if you don't mind, I'm going to open this up to our board at this point, and I'm going to go through one at a time. If you don't mind asking questions, if somebody has questions. Now, we have one man came in, his name's Gregory Clark. He's also got his own radio show and on Facebook and other places. And he's a powerhouse for information and getting information out. But I'm going to start with Billy first. Billy, do you have any questions for Mr. Bundy?
I'd like to say, first of all, hi, Ammon. It's so good to hear your voice. And I know we've kept on top of everything going on with you. And Tom and I really prayed hard and did all we could to support your family. And I do have a question. How is your mom holding up right now? I mean, I really think about her often and pray for her. How is she doing?
She is doing well now. I will say this, though. I watched my mother, or heard and tell and by her voice, and even pictures that I was able to have sent to me, but I saw my mother deteriorating, and anyway, I'm glad that my father is home. I see her being much more happy, at peace, and just content, which was something that she was losing over time. She was fighting, she's a very strong and wonderful woman, but it was just very difficult for her, and it was just so wearing on her. And now she almost seems like a different woman now, not the way she was before all this happened.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that. Because we had numerous conversations with Carol. When I say we, I'm talking about Jim. We kept an eye on her. If she needed anything, he was ready to rock and roll at any time to be there to help your mom. And we think very highly of you folks. I want you to know that. And your case actually woke up a lot of people and opened the eyes to America. So with that, Chuck, you got any questions?
No, not really. I just want to reiterate, as I did the other night with our guest we had the other night. I want to reiterate what a honor it is to be able to sit here and listen to such highly honored guests tell their stories. I am, we've had Cliven on here, we've had Ryan on here, we've had Shauna Cox, who was with LaVoy when he was killed. And, we've had a number of folks on here associated with these events, and it's just been, for me, it's just been an absolute honor and an awe-inspiring thing for me to be listen to these people tell their stories, and it's just you know, as I say, I'm in awe. So again, thank you, Mr. Bundy, for being here with us.
Okay.
Well, thank you. It is my, you know, it's my. I'm honored to be here, but you know, so thank you. So,
Okay, now Pete, have you got any questions? Now Pete is one of President Trump's advisors. I will let you know right now, Mr. Bundy.
very good.
Pete, do you have any questions?
He says he.
Okay. Greg, you got any questions for this gentleman?
Yes, I do. I'm interested. You know, for those of you who know me, I graduated from Valparaiso, which was the #1 social department, work department, and emphasis in policy. And what I'm thinking about is a policy for farmer and rancher land protection and water, and also water, and like a twofold water thing to protect water that you farmers and ranchers are using, and to.
Are you still there?
Nestle's drinking up all the water from the river, Muskegon River, and causing problems by they're taking all the water and reselling it. And then we have a problem with the quality of water right now as well. That's a state emergency. So what I'm thinking about is a policy for farmers and ranchers to protect both their land rights.
Lost you again,
from I'm thinking of a policy that you know, because my background is policy, a policy to be written that would protect water rights coming on to ranchers and farmers' lands, and also to protect the easements from infringement by the federal government or the state government. So I'm looking at this more of a policy situation. And I also want to say thank you very much, and thank you. And I hope everybody supports Ryan Bundy for governor. Also, Billy, I want to say very quickly that I see a policy there for credit recovery for people that lost their homes in the mortgage crisis. And we bailed out the bank, but we did not bail out the American people. And I would at least like to see the credit ratings restored to anybody that lost their home in the mortgage crisis. I don't think it was the American people's fault. So that's a separate policy. But I just want to know if you would have any ideas on helping to draft policy on protecting the water rights that are coming onto ranches and farms, and also you know, the easements, you know, where they coming in like Tom lost his land and they just came in and just start expanding, you know, eminent domain onto his land, took his fence that was very valuable and he had to rebuild it and all this sort of thing. So I just would like you to think about that maybe when you come back on, because, you know, I know President Trump's a fan of the show. And so I want you to think about possibly help us come up with some ideas to protect both the water rights and the land rights. And I think there's a policy here somewhere. I also want to apologize. One of my lives I went on about UNESCO, and Johnny told me that President Trump already solved the problem, and you know, President Trump accomplishes so many things. I don't know how he has time to do all these things. And I was going on about it, and he said, "Oh, Greg, President Trump already fixed that." So I want to apologize for that. But I just want you to think about a possible bill in Congress or executive order. I don't know what it'll take, but to protect the water rights of farmers and ranchers and to protect their property.
Mr. Bundy, Gregory Clark, I'll tell you, he's he's a guy that I'm in awe with all the time. He's involved in the political world as well as the movie industries, book writer, you name it. And he's a good man to have in your corner for getting things done.
Well, that's good to know. You know, I kind of just as a little bit of an answer to that. I have studied the state laws when it comes to water and property rights in many of the Western states. And those laws are very strong. But the issue is on a federal level, they come in and literally disregard the state laws, and then the states are not willing to defend those positions and their laws, their own laws. And so it leaves the people exposed. And so, rather than water laws or policies made, or, land, or, any type of other policy, there needs to be something that strengthens our state and gives them enough fortitude to stand against these federal agencies that will come in and strong arm them. And, there's lots of different reasons for that, but our water laws are very strong in the state of Nevada and in most of the western states, along with our property laws. So I'm not sure that a whole lot of policy will fix this issue, but I'm sure maybe some policies and directive keeping the federal government from even coming into a state, maybe, to on a federal level. But in reality, when someone is taking property, it becomes the duty of government on whatever level to protect that property, and that's simply not happening.
And I'd like to back Ammon up on that one. As all of you know, not only is that not happening, but he is right. We don't need to create a lot of new policies. We don't need to create a lot of new laws. The laws are already on the book. Our unalienable rights are already there. What we have is a failure to invoke the law enforcement into doing their job, into the sheriffs doing their job. The sheriffs have a duty to protect us, to be out there for the people, stopping the theft of home, stopping the theft of water, stopping the theft of our lands. The sheriffs have the duty to protect, and yet we watched, even at the Bundys, and my house too. And Ammon, you have been away a lot when a lot of this was going on across America. But when the SWAT teams hit a home and bring helicopters and assault weapons and bring dogs and attack the American people who are doing nothing but attempting to get the sheriffs and law enforcement to do the jobs that are already on the books. We don't need to put new laws anywhere. We have enough already. We just need to follow the dang laws that are already there, supposed to be protecting us. A man should not be sitting 2 years in prison, being beaten and stripped naked when he hasn't even been found guilty of a crime. Even a man found guilty of a crime should not be treated like that. So we have laws. We don't need new ones. We don't need to write anything more. As a matter of fact, we need to withdraw some of this crap and just follow the basic laws of human nature. Common sense. Don't hurt another man. Don't create a victim. No victim, no crime. And leave a man alone to raise his family, his livestock, his vegetables. It's time we quit saying we need more things on the books and start just enforcing that which is already there.
Well, that may require a federal overreach executive order or bill to do that. So if the laws are already there, then what we need is something to protect the constitutional freedoms, the constitutional rights, and something to restrict the federal government for overreaching into your rights and into your state. So it might be a different type of policy.
Well, all I can tell you.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
Yes.
Emphasize. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith. I may be wrong, and I have been mistreated and might be kind of biased at this point, trying not to be, but I have a less faith in the federal government restricting themselves, and more faith in state governments, local governments, and particularly the people in their defense. But if there was an opportunity, especially under Trump at this time, to get the federal government to begin to limit and restrict themselves, how could anybody, you know, how could anybody want to discourage that?
Well, it's a states' rights issue too. Is the other thing. So it might be giving more power to the states to not allow the federal government to infringe on your rights. So I'm not sure. I'm just kicking this around, but obviously something needs to be done.
It's an education issue. I think a lot of, because again, the states have that power. They've either been manipulated into not exercising that power because of federal funding, or they've been actually duped into believing that the federal government does have supremacy over the states when it comes to these issues. And so I view it as an education issue as well, because you've got the limitations, the enumerations that are in the charter, the general charter, the Constitution, and beyond that, the federal government does not have jurisdiction. Now, and the states just seem to me that they just need to understand that. But if there can be some reinforcement of that from President Trump, or even from, you know, whatever, wherever it might come from the federal government, that the states do have this power and they need to defend it, then that is certainly that would certainly be welcomed by me.
I know we have that problem in Michigan, that we're allowing corporations just to come in and take our water, you know, that and then drying up rivers and things like that. So it's something with, like you say, we need to educate ourselves and look at the whole situation and figure out what can we do, I guess, is what it comes down to.
Yep. What can we do? There certainly is a lot we can do, and I appreciate your comments. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you and your family so much, and we all pray for you. And I know all of America sends our prayers and are so grateful. And I really hope everyone supports Ryan Bundy for governor, and I'll do all I can to promote Mr. Bundy. And that we just want to send our gratitude and our love, and we're sorry all this has happened. And you know, really, you're in our prayers.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for that support to my brother. I don't think there is another candidate. If we understand freedom and liberty, I don't think we have a choice other than Ryan Bundy in Nevada.
Well, we're all in agreement with you, and we all are supporting him on that, 100%. Now, Termo Rancher, Tom, do you have any questions for Mr. Bundy?
Ammon, you know where I stand. You and your family. I love your mom from years. Seen her in Utah and with Jeanette Finnegan when we took the red dog. But we stand, my family stands with you. We always will. You know, if you need us, you can always call us. We thank you for being on the show, and thank you for being so quick to get on the show. You have a good day, my friend, and God bless you.
Thank you, Tom.
And ladies and gentlemen, pay attention to what Mr. Bundy has said. It shows so much of the overreach of the federal government. And I'm not saying all government is crooked. It's the overreach, I hate to say it, of the left. President Trump is doing everything he can to get this country straightened out. And he's done more as a president than any president in the history of America. And we have people voting very shortly here, and vote red. Go out there and let's make this red wave into a complete red ocean. Because the simple fact is America's in trouble, folks. Stand behind our president. Stand behind our patriots. Stand behind not just the American people, but stand behind our military. They're the ones that have fought. They're the ones that are out there that are dying to keep America free and also to keep other countries free. But more than anything, also, thank our vets. We've been there for America for a long time. And it's because of keeping the red, white, and blue flying, the American flag. Keep it flying. It will never touch the ground. We were going to go through some cues, but this was an extra long show tonight, so I'm going to give Chuck a break tonight if he doesn't mind. What I want to do is we'll go through the cue posts. We have a lot of them, but our next show, we will cover the updated ones, let you know what's going on. And as always, Chuck, who was very important to this show, he always keeps you up on cues. So, folks, our next show we will have the cues. And in the meantime, Mr. Bundy, it's been an honor and a privilege to have you. And if after we close the show, if you want to stay on and visit with the folks for a little bit, you're welcome to do that too. All I can say is God bless America, and God bless you, Mr. Bundy, and your family, and protect you. Like I said, we are in your corner 100%. If you ever need the Patriots, we're going to be there for you again.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, sir. Chuck, do you want to close the show out with prayer?
All right, sir, we'll do that. Lord Jesus, we come before you right now, once again to thank you for this another opportunity that we've had to come here, to work together, and to do this show and to do this great work that you've given us to do. This great work of, well, they call it the Great Awakening, awakening the American people to what is going on, what has been done to them for these many years. And suddenly, with the election of your anointed Donald Trump, we are now waking up, seeing what's been done, and we're now beginning the fight against it. And we're actually, as the president says, we're winning. We thank you, Lord, for what you are doing to help us with this fight. And we ask you, Lord, to continue with us now as we close this show. Continue this now throughout this night and into the coming days. Continue to guide us, guard us, and direct us, and draw us ever closer to one another and ever closer to thee. Be our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Thank you for tuning in to the United Constitutional Patriots radio show. Our next show will be on Friday at 6 p.m. Mountain and 5 p.m. Pacific. God bless all you Patriots and have a great night.